skip the cold weather. Get a Casper mattress and hibernate till spring. Seriously, it's so comfortable, you'll never want to get out of bed. Try it in your home for 100 nights risk-free. Go to Casper.com and use code Mike for $50 towards the purchase of your mattress. Terms and conditions apply.
This is Larry Culpepper, inventor of the college football playoff. Goes without saying that I know about a good idea or two when it comes to college football. And the best idea out there is to subscribe to the Championship Drive podcast in the Listen tab of your ESPN app.
Not a whole lot of complaining this week about the quality of the NFL games. I'm going to give this Cowboys-Steelers game the nod over Patriots-Seahawks as the best game of the day by a hair. Cowboys win their 8th straight. Ezekiel Elliott went off, and we'll discuss his MVP chances in a moment. And suddenly, it doesn't seem so crazy to contemplate this Cowboys team heading maybe straight to the Super Bowl. Hot take. More hot takes. My man 5, Donovan McNabb, joining us, and Peter Rosenberg making your His and Hers debut, Hot 97, Michael K. Show.
Also a great quarterback in my time.
I
like
it. Also, and later on, you and I will discuss the new Tribe Called Quest.
I look forward to this.
I got it. It's banging. Get it. Listen to it. Jam to it. It's on.
All right. So what's on is this succession about the Cowboys. 5, I'll start with you. You buying the Cowboys? How about them as the best team in the NFL after what you witnessed against Pittsburgh?
Best team in the NFL, no. Best team in the NFC, yes. I say that because it was a battle between them and the Seattle Seahawks. One thing I want to see from Seattle is I want to see how balanced they will be running the football and also utilizing the legs and arm of Russell Wilson. I think right now it's too much pressure being put on the shoulders of Russell Wilson to be that guy that we seen 2 years ago to lead them to the Super Bowl. What helps a quarterback out is a great running game, and that's what Dallas has. Dallas is so balanced. Their offensive line is probably the best in the league. Mm-hmm. Dak Prescott, to me, and I put it out there on Twitter and also talked about on my show, on the McNabb and Custer show.
Yeah, go ahead, get that plug in, big dog.
1 a.m. Follow us. We do talk some great things. But I said Dak Prescott should be Rookie of the Year because no one expected him to be as the starting quarterback. Being a 4th-round draft pick, when you're surpassing a guy who has pretty much been the face of the franchise for over a decade at this particular point, and then being efficient on 3rd down, utilizing the deep ball when he needs to, being accurate and moving the chains. So Dak Prescott, to me, I know Ezekiel Elliott probably be in the MVP race, but I think Dak Prescott deserves a lot more credit than we're giving him. We're continuously putting a microphone in front of Jerry Jones's face that will never just say he's our quarterback and we're going to ride with him. He continues to bring up if Tony Romo's eating healthy, if it's not, if he using the bathroom, whatever.
For the first time since a lot of this got started, Jerry did back off that and said basically we're riding with the hot hand.
He's got a hot hand. That's not saying, hey, he's our guy. We're going to go with him.
Like
you know what? That's just like saying somebody got a cool haircut. You know what I mean?
Not even. It's even less than that because it means if it's a hot hand, that he could have a cool hand. And if he does, we're going to make a change.
Like it's fluky a little bit.
Right, but I think yesterday, man, Dak changed the conversation by eking out that win in Pittsburgh because that was the perfect setup. You lose the game in Pittsburgh, and now all of a sudden you're 2 weeks away from a divisional showdown on Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Do they get nervous? But you know, it was such an easy pitfall. That 425 national Pittsburgh game, I've seen many good teams.
Right.
And let's be honest, Steelers haven't been great.
No, they haven't.
But yesterday, of course, they played more like the Pittsburgh Steelers. Ben pulling out Ben tricks, and Dak gets the win. You cannot get away from Dak anymore.
That must hurt your heart to say that. You're a
really
Washington
bad.
fan.
Really
like,
bad.
Be honest with us.
I don't like saying it either. I mean, you know.
Somebody who
I played for two teams in a division. And none of them
were you on the Redskins? I don't even remember that happening.
I ordered a coffee. I got some bagels.
It wasn't even there by the time you left.
You're right. I was gone, but the cream cheese is still in Washington.
But I will tell you, it pains me to no end to live in this world where the Cowboys are. I think they may
be relevant again.
They may be the best team in football. I know you would make a great point for why they're not, but you could certainly at least argue that they are the best team in football.
True.
And that is, for so much of the league, that's crushing. Not just Redskins fans, everyone.
The thing about it is the New England Patriots are still playing football. Even though they played, and it was a tough battle against Seattle, but they're still the best team in football at this particular point. Now, we'll see how their defense can continue to hold all throughout the rest of the year, but Tom Brady, I don't know what he's drinking, what he's eating. I need some of that. But he's playing great. And will he get MVP? He probably shouldn't because he missed the 4 games and for a reason. We all know what happened. But I just think The number one team should be New England, but behind them is definitely a race.
Oh, I agree with both of you guys. Like, this was, you hesitate to call it a statement win because that just sounds so cliche, but I think for Dak Prescott in his early career, this was an important win. I mean, you're at Pittsburgh. He's already beaten Aaron Rodgers at Lambeau, and I know that doesn't look as impressive given where the Packers are now, but this young man is really coming of age, and I know that a lot of people want to say that, oh, Tony Romo, he's still a better player. He may be. But right now, he's their best quarterback. Dak Prescott is. Let me bring this up real quick about the Pittsburgh Steelers before we move on to talking about Ezekiel Elliott and the MVP race. Interesting to me was Ben Roethlisberger's comment after the game where he said his team was unaccountable and basically he put everybody on blast by saying, like, this team, we make it. I mean, Le'Veon Bell did the same thing, too, when he said, I think he tweeted this or said it somewhere.
Early in the season.
Yeah, about how the stuff that you're seeing from them on the field, the undiscipline, the lack of accountability, that's stuff they're doing in practice. And it's not being checked. And that's a real red flag to me. I'm raising my eyebrows a little bit.
Well, the whole thing about it for a quarterback, and people don't understand, when you've been a starting quarterback in the face of the franchise for over a decade, it's not so much of the head coach anymore. It's the leadership on the football field. And what Ben was saying, he's not calling Mike Tomlin out. And I know everybody wants to point at Mike Tomlin because he's been there for so long.
That's what I wondered when he said
He's been there for so long. I'm calling out players because if I'm in a locker room and everybody is just acting like, oh, we're fine, we're all right with the Pittsburgh Steelers. No, you made a mistake today. Own up to it. There are guys on that defense who didn't even get close to Ezekiel Elliott.
Untouched
there are guys
touchdowns.
on that defense couldn't even get pressure on Dak Prescott. On offense, they're getting illegal penalties because they're not lined up right or something's not right with the offense. And so that's what Ben is basically saying is we're in this position because we're making our own mistakes that we're making in practice and we should get corrected. It's not on Mike Tomlin. It's not on Todd Haley or our defensive coordinator. It's on us guys out on the football field. We're grown men. Be accountable for your mistakes.
The only thing you can really point out with Tomlin that people would talk about that's easy is, of course, the 2-point conversions.
Not going for a field goal.
You can't continue to go for 2-point conversions over and over again, but once he dug the hole, now you have to keep going
now you're
for it.
chasing points.
But realistically, I think we all know Mike Tomlin's one of the best coaches in football. And him and Ben Roethlisberger, they lead this team together, to be honest, and I think they're just calling out everyone else because that touchdown to end the game, that's disgraceful. You can't end the game like that.
I mean, seriously, it was like everything opened up for them to possibly get the ball to try to score again. And for Mike Tomlin, he's known for his defense, and being a former defensive coordinator, you would expect a little bit more. But when guys are out of position because whatever you're trying to do, be the hero or whatever it may have been, that to me says a lot about the players more than the head coach. The head coach can only do so much. But if you don't, as a player, you're not holding yourself accountable for your mistakes, then you don't need to be out there.
Well, let's move back to Dallas for a second. Ezekiel Elliott, only 2 other running backs have been able to gain 1,000 yards the first 9 games of their career. All day, Adrian Peterson and Eric Dickerson. That's high-class quality.
Indeed.
You know what I'm saying? That's a great list to be on. A lot of people talking MVP. Mr. Rosenberg, you buying that?
No, not at all.
You just hating?
No, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Zeke's great.
All right.
Yeah. Zeke's great. There's no way around that. But I don't think the MVP, based on what it's supposed to be, like what you're contributing yourself to your team, could go to a guy who gets to run behind that line. I just don't know if you get to the MVP.
Now you sound like the people that say Emmitt Smith only got those yards because he ran behind a great offense.
That was an outstanding offensive line.
It was outstanding offensive line. So look, man.
But guess who I was? I was Barry Sanders all day at that time.
See,
Barry Sanders did it himself behind a terrible line.
And a terrible organization.
And a terrible organization.
Yes.
Now, granted, you didn't get the record, but Barry Sanders was more valuable to that Lions team. And I think they're like, for example, Derek Carr is more valuable to the Raiders. I think they'd be fine if they did not have Ezekiel Elliott. Their record's close to the same. I do feel that way.
The whole thing about football at this point, we get overblown when we see Heisman Trophy winners. We see the MVP of baseball, basketball, football. It's never the MVP of what it actually means. It's who's the leading scorer in the league, who's the leading rusher in the league. It's never the MVP, who's the most valuable player. The most valuable player when it comes to football, a guy like Ben Roethlisberger. They only go as far as Ben takes them.
So you guys are one. You guys seem to be like whoever does more with the least.
Well, yes, is that in that aspect, and then also, I mean, Take the 4-game suspension away and take the 3-1 record before Tom came back. Now the way they're playing right now, Tom could possibly be an MVP, but I'm actually with him. The whole thing about it is Derek Carr has done a remarkable job this year to the point where they're already talking about giving him that big time contract way before it gets out of hand.
Money, yeah.
So I look at a guy like Matt Ryan, who had a great year despite, what happened yesterday against the Philadelphia Eagles. I look at Derek Carr, Ezekiel Elliott. But then my thing was, and I put it out on Twitter, which people didn't understand why I said it, Dak Prescott, to me, should be the rookie of the year if Ezekiel Elliott is the MVP of the league.
Not give Ezekiel both.
Not give Ezekiel both because you can only go as far as your quarterback takes you. You could be a leading rusher in this league, but if your quarterback's awful, you're not going anywhere.
What I don't want to do is, despite the fact that you're right, the Cowboys have the best offensive line in football, and let's peel it all the way back and remember when it was actually a conversation about whether or not the Cowboys should take Johnny Manziel or Zach Martin, who is an incredible player in this league.
Right.
It seems crazy that was once an actual conversation. But I don't want to treat this like this is easy. Like anybody could do this.
No, it's not easy at all.
Because when that's why I mentioned those names of Eric Dickerson and Adrian Peterson. In a day where we see the role of the running back diminish, this guy is a every down back. Let me not remind you of the 95 receiving yards he also had.
Oh, yeah.
Blocking, catching the football, running the football. I mean, he can do it all. And so I think right now he's got to be your leader.
Well, here's my question. What's the bigger upgrade for the Cowboys as an organization? The quarterback play from last year or the running back play from last year?
Quarterback play.
That's the thing. Like, Dak makes this team so different.
That's why I said rookie of the year. But see, a perfect example to add to what you're saying, we talk about the offensive line, how great they work. It didn't help McFadden last year when he was healthy.
It did not.
We didn't see any of this.
Right.
So give the man a little bit of credit coming out of Ohio State. I mean, do we expect them to continue this on? Absolutely, because I don't see anything going wrong with as far as the health of their offensive line. I think they'll probably end up 13-1 to the point where it's pressure on Jason Garrett's shoulders. Jason Garrett's shoulders to be able to rest a lot of his guys in the last 2 games of the season. I think those are questions that we really need to focus on.
All right. Well, since you kept bringing it up,
don't feel bad.
You just went right past Thanksgiving. You just went right past Thanksgiving.
Hey, we'll all be eating, and probably they will be too.
Well, since you kept alluding to it, let's get right into the other game of the day, which would be Patriots-Seahawks. Man, that was something special. It was like a weird deja vu. Patriots needed a touchdown to put themselves in the position of either tying the game or, of course, going for 2 to win it. But peep their final offensive sequence. Patriots were on the 2, 43 seconds left. They tried 2 Brady sneaks, one of which he bobbled. They were on the 1 after a penalty and gave the ball to LeGarrette Blount. That didn't work out so well. All of this set up 4th and goal from the 1. Throw the fade to Gronkowski. It didn't work out. Him and Cam Chancellor, you see they kind of tussled there. 5, I'll start with you. Did you think the Patriots, did they overthink kind of that final offensive possession?
Imagine if Cam Chancellor would have jumped in front of that and picked that. Would it have been Tom Brady's fault or bad call by Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels, like we tried to get on Pete Carroll and the decision to throw the ball instead of give it to Marshawn Lynch?
Which is why this was such an odd juxtaposition.
And that's what makes this thing so interesting, because I think this was kind of a preview of the Super Bowl to come. Both of these teams are so balanced. Defensively, I think the New England Patriots were exposed. Are they missing Jimmy Collins? That's a big question. Chandler Jones, what he would have done in this particular defense now that they're both gone. But I look at it as for the Seattle Seahawks, and I talked about them earlier about being balanced. Russell Wilson is getting healthier. This offense is starting to understand his style a little bit. Offensive line all of a sudden look like they could block. And then defensively, Cam Chancellor is a beast.
Yep.
We can talk. Cam Chancellor has been out for the last couple of weeks. Michael Bennett is on his way back. So we're talking about one of the best defenses getting better with the same particular guys that we've seen over the years continue to dominate.
I can't do it. I can't do it. I just want to, can I just speak? It's not about the Redskins. I'm going to talk about for everyone out there as a team that's not one of these great teams. I can't do it with Seattle again. Every year the season starts. They're not that good. They're different this year. By the time you get to Thanksgiving, every year Pete Carroll has this team ready. And they are always going to be a favorite for the Super Bowl. And here we are again. You telling me you want to see Seattle now?
Hey, they were my pick. I picked Seattle and Pittsburgh. The Pittsburgh one I don't feel so good about right now, but
Seattle looks just like Seattle looks in the second half of the season every year.
Fearsome defensive line, as you just said, with Cam Chancellor being back, that makes all the difference in the world to this team. Psychologically, on the field, all that. I mean, it's the reason why they call that cat Wolverine, man. He's no joke.
The whole thing about it on my show last night, I'll plug it one more time.
What's that called again?
Check us out. 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yes,
we had a chance to talk to Cliff Averill after the game, and Cliff Averill basically told us when you have Cam Chancellor back there, everybody is secured. Because he's the guy that if you get out of your lane, he's the one filling the gap for you. Think about it. If Michael Bennett comes back, then what does that mean for that front four? Now they have depth at their front four. So now they can just peel their ears back. Think about when Gronkowski caught that ball down the middle of the field and got hit by Earl Thomas.
Ooh.
I felt the pain.
He said it was the hardest hit he felt in a long time.
Hey, did you see how he got up here?
Yeah.
Hey, one of those. Like, are you okay? And you're like,
I mean, when he got hit, I was like, he gonna cry in the car.
Okay, absolutely. He looked to the sideline like Martellus.
So, yeah, we're not used to seeing Gronk be sit like that because he throws, as he likes to call it, he throws people out the club all the time. And now you have a team that can match them physically. I mean, I think they're right on track for it. We were talking about the Cowboys and whether or not they're the best team in the NFL. And the Seahawks are part of the reason why it's hard for me to put the Cowboys there. Because I think about if these two teams meet up, you know, who I would probably feel a little more comfortable going with Seattle because of the way their defense could just make plays, their experience. And as you mentioned, Russell Wilson, for him to, and look, not that you ever get enough credit for playing hurt as a football player, but for him to have not missed a game with some of the things that we know he's been suffering from, it says everything about his football character and who he is as a quarterback. So, I mean, this team looks as dangerous as ever. So,
I'll tell you who takes the biggest L is all the NFL haters, of which I know way too many because it's so in vogue now to be down on the NFL. Y'all telling me you're not going to be excited about a Dallas-Seattle playoff game, an NFC championship game?
Yeah,
are you crazy?
Or, for example, another Patriots-Seahawks rematch. Look, I know that they won't see each other as often as the Colts.
Right.
You know, when Peyton Manning was there, and that was the rivalry of the NFL. But this one, I think, is just as good.
This
even
is
though
fun.
It's not as many games. It's a lot of fun to watch these two teams.
This is Larry Culpepper, and if you love college football as much as I do, enough to invent the playoff, you're welcome. Do yourself a favor and subscribe to the Championship Drive podcast in the Listen tab of your ESPN app. App is short for app.
All right, I watch the Packers these days, and I think,
why?
Who in the hell left the gate open or why? Packers got whooped by the Titans, their third straight loss, and while they're just a game out of the first place in the NFC North, this doesn't look like a team that's going anywhere. Meanwhile, the Titans are trending north. Marcus Mariota dismantled Green Bay, 4 touchdowns, no picks. Titans are averaging 33.7 points per game over the last 6 games, a stretch where Mariota has thrown at least 2 touchdowns per game. So, Peter, was this about Green Bay kind of hitting rock bottom or Marcus Mariota lighting it up?
Well, I think this bigger story is, of course, Green Bay being terrible.
With the U.
But let's first of all, shout out to Tennessee, because I remember the talk of that division in the offseason was Blake Bortles in Jacksonville. That was the conversation, and now that conversation's over.
We'll get to how awful he is later.
So props to Tennessee for being on the rise, but I mean, I'm sorry. What world do I live in where the Cowboys are unstoppable and Aaron Rodgers looks up and is down 21-0 in Tennessee? As a football fan, I'm telling you right now, you may be too close to it as a player. I'm telling you, Donovan, you're sitting at home and you see that score that says your team's down 21-0 to Tennessee. I don't care how good Mariota is. That feels crazy. That is rock bottom.
To me, it says a lot about Marcus Mariota and his progression. I look at when he came into the league, the big questions is, can he take the ball from the center? Will he be able to understand an NFL offense? Will he be able to pick up on the complex blitzes? And for me, I think since the 4th game of the season, he's shown so much at this particular point of playing from the pocket, leading his team down on sustainable drives. They're running the football, which helps them. DeMarco Murray is back to the guy we seen in Dallas. Henry is doing a great job for him in the red zone. But I look at Marcus Mariota, accurate. He's completing 65% of his passes, 99 QB rating. He has 2,800 yards at this particular point, 20 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Here's a guy that everyone wants to look in this league and say, well, Andrew Luck is going to lead Indianapolis because he's Andrew Luck. Well, if it wasn't Andrew Luck, it was the Houston Texans. Well, they don't have really a secured position, meaning at the quarterback position in this league, besides Andrew Luck. Brock Osweiler is about a sneeze away from losing his spot.
I mean, 99 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. I don't know how that happens.
However you can win, I guess. I mean, then you can talk about Blake Bortles. If Blake Bortles is not donating Christmas gifts and interceptions to everybody before Christmas, it's one in which I like Mariota because he's sound. You can tell they rally behind him. And they're in position to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Nobody even talked about Tennessee making the playoffs, and it's all because of him.
It's a huge story because he was kind of the forgotten man, as you alluded to in this young quarterback conversation. And even the way Jameis Winston, and
his rookie season,
and how he even started off this year. And we'll talk about Jameis and Mike Evans in a second for completely different reasons. Marcus Mariota was just left out of this.
Right.
And I think when you think about everything they said about this kid coming into the NFL, we should have expected this. We should have seen this coming, is that he was considered a bright kid, somebody who, despite his quiet nature, was the kind of guy that people wanted to rally around. A lot of good things. But
and he got some swag to him, too.
A little bit more than people,
than people realize.
But this is, ultimately, the bigger story is Green Bay, not just because of how bad they're playing, but this feels like a team that's about to be blown up. You know, they're having the type of season, I can't see how this doesn't cost people some jobs.
And it will.
Yeah, because you look at Mike McCarthy, I know whose job will be safe, and that's Aaron Rodgers, but you look at the team that they've built around him, the younger players aren't developing correctly. I don't know what's happened to that receiving core that used to be considered one of the more dependable in the league, but Jordy Nelson, he doesn't look right. I mean, I don't know if this is just the vestiges of trying to work your way back from such a significant injury, but it's a lot wrong there. And that defense, to give up 111 points in the last 3 games, they're just sorry. Yeah. Like, it's just pretty bad.
Well, people forget that the reason Green Bay was able to be who they were over the last several years is because their offense was good enough to compensate for a defense that, even though it's had its moments, is generally a defense that gives up a lot of points. So when the offense isn't clicking anymore, and Jordy doesn't look like Jordy, and the only person they really have is Devontae Adams, this all of a sudden isn't the same team anymore.
Right.
Well, the whole thing on defense, Clay Matthews hasn't been healthy either. So, I mean, he's not the same guy that they expected to be.
No running game to speak of as well. All right, moving on to a more controversial topic. You could argue Jameis Winston and Mike Evans combined for the pitch and catch of the year. I don't know how he did this.
First of all, I feel like I can run faster than him, like backwards.
He went back in this dominating win over the Bears. And maybe on another Sunday, this might have been the discussion, but Evans' catch is just an afterthought because he sat for the national anthem in protest of Donald Trump. Here's his explanation. I don't want to disrespect the veterans or anything, the men and women that serve this country. I'm forever indebted to them. But the things that have been going on in America lately, I'm not going to stand for that. When Ashton Kutcher comes out and says, we've been punked, I'll stand again, but I won't stand anymore. It's not about the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or anything like that. It's just who he is. It's well documented what he's done. I'm not going to stand for something I don't believe in. That's the end of that. Well, not quite, because Evans, he has some more to say on this subject.
You know, I'm not big on politics or things like that, but I told myself, I said, if this happens, then America's not right now. As long as, he's the elect, he's the president-elect, and I'm not a political person that much, but I have common sense, and I know when something's not right. I said this a long time ago. When he ran, I thought it was a joke, and the joke continues.
I think we all better get used to this. We've seen over the course of since this election has been settled, we've seen Stan Van Gundy come in and say his piece.
Greg Popovich,
he said his piece. Now you have Mike Evans. So, Peter, it's sort of like that separation. I hear this from sports fans all the time whenever we discuss stuff like this on the show. Stick to sports. I come to ESPN to get away from this stuff. Blah, 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 and on and on. And I'm not saying they don't have a right to feel that way. What I am saying is that because of the contentious nature of this election, the polarizing nature of the person who was elected, you will see more and more athletes just openly go in on President-elect Donald Trump.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a tough spot for the athletes. It's a tough spot for all of us. I like that he cares. I have two problems with what he did. Number one, don't start off by saying I'm not political as you're delivering a political message.
This is very political.
That was very political, and that's okay, but don't run away from it. Number two, I don't like the specific way he chose to protest because I believe it convolutes what Colin Kaepernick and others have been doing. Right. You can't protest. Our country made that decision. You may not like it. You may not think that's America. Update. That's America. In high numbers, including high numbers of women. You may not like it, but don't protest. It really just happened. So Ashton Kutcher's not coming out. In fact, that show's not even on the air. That's not a realistic thing to expect. So my only issue I have is speak your mind, do whatever you want to do. But I believe that what Colin Kaepernick is doing with kneeling is about much more than simply an election. It's about real issues. Colin's doing things within the community that's real. So I totally respect Mike Evans' opinion. I think that might have not been the gesture I would like to see.
I'm glad you mentioned that for everybody that's watching, that, you know, don't let it take away from what Colin Kaepernick was doing and the message for that. I think for Mike Evans, I don't agree with him doing it. I understand why he said he did it, but yet still stand. Just stand. If you wear a shirt to say you don't agree with Donald Trump, whatever, that's fine. But I'm right along with you. The situation that we've been hearing, Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich, Van Gundy, there are going to be a lot more. And then we've seen the protesters over the last couple days in different states of just the election. I look at it in the sense for athletes, and everyone kind of gets upset or they get pulled back when athletes begin to talk politics. Well, when the microphone's in your face and you got to answer the question. You know, so it's not that you're talking about it. You just answer the question.
And by sitting, he had to know he was going to face that question.
He knew exactly what was going on. So the big thing that people need to understand also, there are going to be a lot of people who won't show up at the White House, teams that win championships who won't show up because of Donald Trump. You know, this is one in which, I mean, hey, I went to vote. It didn't work out as well as I wanted to, but hey, he's our president.
Right.
So that's what we're going to have.
That was the most wild way to put it. True. It's true. I showed up. I mean, it didn't quite go like we hoped.
There are a lot of people who are arguing did not go vote.
Right.
So it's easy to sit and talk about somebody or what they didn't do if you didn't go vote yourself. So, you know, I look at it in a sense for Mike Evans, you know, maybe you need to rethink this. Yeah, this is the way that you feel about Donald Trump. But there's other ways of doing it. So
well, I guess, that's where the other ways thing, to me, maybe because I look at us as always have been a nation of protesters, okay? That we're dissidents at the root of it. I mean, we protest so many things in this country, and so I never want to deny someone the right to do that, even if it's something that is as polarizing, not it itself, but like the way people feel emotionally about the national anthem evokes a lot of feelings. And I get it, because you worry that by doing that, the focus becomes the anthem and not being patriotic as opposed to whatever his message actually is. I think that's the fault of the public, not really the person doing it. No. I mean, we're thinking individuals. I hope we're able to have nuanced conversations. So I would hope that people would understand that what Colin Kaepernick is doing
is something different.
There's something different. That's what he chose to do.
But you know there's no chance they understand that.
They don't understand a lot of things.
Because it's easy not to. It's easy to just go and say, hey, what's he doing?
And what can you do? You can't base it around idiots. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. And you're right. People always want you to protest in a way that is comfortable for them.
And that's not the nature of a protest.
My only concern is I just don't want people throwing it all in the same basket. Right. Especially it's easy
like
because
week to week it being something else. Like,
as we learned, Colin Kaepernick was not pro-Hillary. Okay, no. He didn't care about the election.
He was anti-everybody.
Exactly. So let's not toss it all in the same basket. Let's just be thoughtful when talking about it. And Mike Evans and any other athlete, I want you to use your voice. You should use your voice. But when that microphone comes, don't start off with "I'm not political."
Right.
Have something a little bit prepared. Just be ready to go.
Yeah, and much like look, it's guys that did vote. Or athletes that did vote for Donald Trump, and they have the right to say what they want to say, too. Richie Incognito has said it. We saw Jay Cutler. He said it. Okay, if that's your guy, that's your candidate, fine.
Why's it got to be the worst guys?
I knew you were going to say that. Why's it got to be
Richie Incognito?
Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I wasn't even going there. You just
that didn't help.
I wasn't even going there. Everybody has a right to their opinion. And thank you once again for sharing yours, Donovan.
Hey, basketball fans, I'm Cassidy Hubbard. On the latest NBA Lockdown podcast, me and Amin El-Hassan, along with producer Josh, discuss, is James Harden the real MVP this season? Are you a believer in him? Download the podcast.
All right, Mr. Rosenberg, let's floor it a little bit. Go hard in the paint. And, of course, hard not to start with college football. Michigan, they came in very confident. They remodeled the Hawkeyes' famous pink visiting locker room, but they left Iowa City feeling a little blue after losing on a last-second 33-yard field goal. Can't say I felt too bad for them.
You did not care at all.
Sorry.
You did not care.
But fortunately for number 3 Michigan, 2 other top 4 teams would go down. Clemson lost to Pittsburgh at home. Washington fell to USC. So, were you surprised, or which one was the most surprising to you of these sort of outcomes that we had?
It depends. Do you want me to pretend that I knew about any of them, or do you want me to tell you how I actually felt? Not. Listen, I live in New York. You end up you end up not being a college football person. But I will tell you this. This is exactly what the college football playoff needed for someone like me to be interested.
Really?
Yeah,
you like the chaos?
I do, because for me the problem is I hate knowing that simply because a team has a loss, they're out.
Right.
Now moving forward, you have so many more meaningful games over the next few weeks because one-loss teams are now in the conversation. So I think as an outsider, this makes the game better moving forward.
Well, here's what's aggravating for me as a college football slappy is that now the people who are calling for an 18 playoff, now they're just going to rise up right now, say this is why we need one, because what if Alabama loses and this happens and that happens? Generally speaking, I agree the chaos is good, but I think this is a little bit easier to sort out than people think. I mean, it's real simple. Michigan wins out, they're in. Ohio State, they still got a shot too. All right, moving on to something crazy. The Saints down 6 and under a minute 30 left in the game. Drew Brees hit Brandon Cooks for a 32-yard game-tying touchdown, but before the Superdome stopped celebrating the touchdown, Justin Simmons he blocked the extra point that you'll see here, and Will Parks ran it back for 2 points. Now, I've seen a bunch of replays. It looked like he stepped out of bounds. It wasn't super definitive. After the review, of course, the play stood and Denver won. Did you think it was an outright conclusion he stepped out? With the white shoes, it's kind of hard to tell.
I respect the white on whites in this case. I mean, that really made a difference. But let's just talk about how bonkers that was. Again, another shout out to all the NFL naysayers who've been so down on the NFL. This finish is literally something we've never gotten in the history of pro football before, because this rule didn't even exist. Yeah. We had a couple earlier in the season in college football, but to see a pro game end on an extra point like that, I'm sorry, that was incredible. Now, I was annoyed because I picked New Orleans, but well worthwhile. All
right, well, another amazing finish. Cam Newton scored a touchdown early against the Chiefs, hit the dab on him one time, unretired it. But the dab wasn't enough to bring them back. Carolina, despite taking a 17-0 lead, they wound up losing because Kansas City scored the final 20 points. So we're going to put the nail in the Panthers' proverbial season here?
I can't put the full nail in because they are the defending NFC champs. It's not impossible to say they could win out, right? But I will tell you, it hurt bad, and I blame the dab, bro. Once 10-year-old white kids take over a dance move, you can't unretire it.
You can't?
It's been co-opted.
Back and make it cool again?
No, it's been co-opted by the children. It's a wrap.
Yeah, it needed the slow motion dab,
like
drama. Dab on them. I think the Panthers are done, personally. And look, I know the division is in flux, but whatever. So, takes a lot of dedication to sit through a 9-6 loss. As you're this Jets fan, look at that drool.
Talking about done.
That's some high-quality drool right there.
Wow.
What's he dreaming about? That's what I want to know.
A different team?
Might as well. Bryce Petty, he made his first career start in the Jets offense. Didn't look much better.
I know what play you're showing.
Yep.
I've been seeing this play for 24 hours.
The Rams, they won their second game of the season without a touchdown. When asked about his poor play, Darrelle Revis, he's been a topic all season. He said, "I'm old." So Revis, I remember when the Patriots decided not to bring him back, a lot of people said, hey, but he was an anchor back there. Maybe once again they knew something everybody else didn't.
I think you're absolutely right. They knew something, and I respect Darrelle for being honest. He is old, and that team is bad.
And the check's still cashing. Meanwhile, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, KD, this is a crazy sequence here, but they combined for 89 points in a win over the Suns yesterday. This was an amazing sequence. Your head just whips back and forth.
I feel like a cat.
What is going on there? But this team, that's what they can do. Meanwhile, they also, they seem to be embracing this whole villain thing. So they had a super villain party at Steph's house, I guess to further embrace the idea. That's not who they are.
No, it's not.
That's very studio gangster.
But it is studio gangster, but I'll tell you this. I support it because you have to own it. KD is vocally owning it. Steph with the shimmies, he kind of owns it. I just feel bad for Klay because Klay does not seem like a heel at all. Klay seems so nice.
Steph is not a heel, and neither is KD.
His dance is heelish.
The only heel is Draymond.
Well, Draymond's the super heel.
That's
but KD's my dude.
Right.
But he is he is getting into it a little bit. Yeah, he's getting into it.
Okay, well, maybe, but don't throw a super villain party. Come on, guys. All right, but on to the UFC, the biggest mouth in sports, and trust me, I really do mean that as a compliment. Again, backed up every single word with the knockout of Eddie Alvarez, making him the first fighter to hold 2 UFC titles simultaneously. And Conor being Conor, after winning, he was quick to remind UFC who should be running things.
They've got to come talk to me now, because no one's came talk to me since the sale has happened. As a businessman, I've been approached as hello and that type of stuff, but I've earned something. Who owns the company now? There's people have shares in the company, celebrities. Conan O'Brien owns the UFC nowadays, so where's my share? Where's my equity? If I'm the one that's bringing this, they've got to come talk to me now. That's all I know. I've got both belts, a chunk of money, a little family on the way. You want me to stick around? You want me to keep doing what I'm doing? Let's talk. But I want the ownership now. I want equal share. I want what I deserve, what I've earned.
Conor channeling his ride too, Will, right there. Is he overstating though his importance to the UFC? I know he's the guy and the most popular person, but what's he going to do?
No, that's the thing. So it's not overstated.
Right.
He is absolutely the guy. Madison Square Garden over the weekend, I went there.
Yeah, you were there.
Amazing energy.
Okay.
They set the all-time gate at MSG. All time. Any event ever. $17 million. That just happened. So he is absolutely the real deal. But to your point, I'm sorry, where are you going?
Yeah.
Because the only other place I could think of you're not going to Bellator, bro. So where are you going? WWE, if you were to do that, they're only going to pay you, if you were the highest paid wrestler of all time, you'd only be making $5 million a year. So where are you, and you have to work much, much more. So where is Conor going? I think this is all a work. This is all for fun for them to generate more of this tension between him and Dana. He knows he can't go anywhere.
Well, I guess I look at this simply from a leverage standpoint. And Look, I haven't been in contract negotiations. You've been in them. You understand that you're only sometimes as good as your leverage and what the market may play. And so because he's doing something so specific, and for this particular platform, it's like, well, what's the market for Conor McGregor that would generate the kind of money that the UFC would feel like they need to compete with? Exactly.
Well, and how about this? Is Conor a great star? Yes. His mouth is even better than his skill in the octagon, right? But let's just be clear. 18 months ago, we were all talking about how Ronda Rousey was the biggest star in the history of the sport. Less than 2 years later, he's now the biggest guy in the history of the sport. I got news for you. The sport is growing, Conor. It's going to continue to grow, and there will be another star.
You don't even think he's... Do you think he's bigger than
No.
Okay,
because there's no place to go. You can't be bigger if there's no other venue or arena, right?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, that there's no, who would be competing theoretically for his services that would get them to up the ante. But I get his frustration because right now, he's everywhere. And as you mentioned, I didn't even know that about the gate receipt. That's incredible in itself, given the history and legacy of MSG. So I get it. You're the biggest star. You know you're the paycheck. You know you're the man. You know people are coming to see you. And more importantly, you know you're able to generate fans outside of just strictly UFC fans. Like, he's bringing casual observers to the sport. When he's on, I pay attention. I want to see his fights. And I don't consider myself a UFC fan in the slightest. And when you know you're able to generate that, and then you're looking at what they're making versus what you're making, and you say, all right, how can we make up this difference? The problem is you can only do it if you have the leverage to do it.
And Dana knows you are one knockout away from not being quite as valuable as you were the last time. So he already had that one against Nate, right?
Right.
Everything's fragile when it comes to fighting. It can change like that.
It can change so much. Again, the name you mentioned, just ask Ronda Rousey. This is the ha-ha portion of our program. They're doing too much countdown. And just for you, Peter Rosenberg, here's your man's Get Him, Kirk Cousins.
Ooh-wee! Ooh-wee! Ooh-wee!
I love it.
Whose man's is that?
That's my man. I'll take it. I like it. I like it better than you like that.
You do?
Yeah, because it's loose. He was having fun, feeling good.
Was he remixing Remy and
no, it was Young M.A.
Young M.A.
Not Remy. Yes, it was.
Yeah, because I was like, who taught him that? And he said that it was Quentin Dunbar who taught him that.
Good job, Quentin.
One thing you got to love about Kirk Cousins is, in addition to how he's played, and nice win over the Vikings, by the way, it's a sort of a engaging corniness about him.
That is a perfect way of putting it.
Yeah.
He is a somewhat corny guy, but he is totally lovable.
Yes.
And the players rally around him. You know, I heard that from even during the RG3 time, that a lot of people who knew would tell me the players react more to Kirk playing. They always liked him.
Man, this guy, Blake Bortles, this is probably the worst interception I've seen this year. Worst interception I've seen in a while. He was trying to do the smart thing and throw at somebody's shoes, at TJ Yeldon's foot.
No.
But it wound up being taken by the Bucs. Best garbage time QB in probably the NFL. Like, you look at his stats after and you think, oh, not bad. You watch the game, oh, it's bad.
Yeah, it just happened on the Thursday night game a couple weeks ago, and I don't know, in the trash bowl, when he did the same thing, get down big and collect the garbage time.
Well, we know the Packers, they were down big. Aaron Rodgers took a little shot there in the end zone, resulted in a scuffle.
As it should.
But check out, oh boy, taking this selfie as a melee breaks out behind him. Really, people?
Yo, someone may be getting fired today for giving out the credential to that dude. Because how are you on the field in the middle of a game if you're that unaware?
Well, it just lets you know where we are as a culture. As social media, you got to stop it. You know,
he didn't even avoid the scuffle.
Right? If somebody hit him in the back of the head, it'd been over. Yo, AI, maybe he needs to practice. See what I did there. And the next time the mannequin, I know that was bad. I'll show myself.
I loved it.
The mannequin challenge, clearly AI, he didn't get it, all right?
You think?
He didn't get it. Like everybody else.
Poor mascot.
The whole thing, you're supposed to be still. Yep. AI was like, oh.
No!
Hold up.
All right, so here's my theory on the mannequin challenge. The reason it's not really a challenge is because the only people it's hard for are babies or old people. And unfortunately, AI, we have now discovered you are definitely in the old people category. You can't move.
Like, he doesn't get it. He's like, oh, I'm supposed to smile? I'm supposed to do this? Like,
you think he's never heard it? I think there's a chance he never heard of it.
I think it's extremely possible.
Yeah, AI ain't on the gram like that.
No, he's not. Plus, he's just gonna be the old dude at the club. I put myself number one just for you, Peter Rosenberg, because I tweeted this about Tribe Called Quest. You know, this is in response to their new album being out. We got it from here. Love this album. So in my hierarchy, all right, it goes Outkast, Roots, Tribe.
Well, what you've said is pure blasphemy, and it's why you are a sports icon and not a music icon. Here's why I have the problem with what you said. The only group you can argue really that's better than Tribe is Outkast. Okay. So I'll give you that. Let's have that conversation. I love the Roots. Saw them Saturday night at the SNL Chappelle party afterwards.
Not so humble bragging, I ain't mad.
Not humble, it was a great event. And I love those guys. But just body of work, I don't think the Roots, they have a ton of music, but is any of it as meaningful as Outkast or Tribe, or even De La for that matter?
Oh, I love De La. They always get left out of the great group.
And like the Roots are almost like a different act altogether. They're a live band, they do late night, but I just don't think they're in that combo.
See, because I'm nice, I let you have the last word.
That was
we'll
so
be back
nice.
together Wednesday.
I'll see you Wednesday.
All right. Take care, everybody.
Louisville heads to Houston to face a dangerous Cougar team on Thursday night.
47 yards right up the middle.
Coverage begins at 7 Eastern on ESPN and on ESPN Radio. Presented by Dr. Pepper.